Hi, sorry I'm late. Matt told me I need to stop apologizing for being late. The reason is I'm hanging out with my friend Elise, and here she is.
Hello.
We're talking about, she just went to a current affair, which is the first time it's ever been in the Bay Area. It's the largest. Do you want to talk a little bit about it?
Yeah, so from my understanding, Current Affair is like the best of the best vintage vendors. They have events in LA and New York, and it's really, I think it's like curated to be some of the best, I think. Yeah?
Yeah, just like an insanely large amount of vintage clothing and
jewelry and artists, and I think a lot of stylists too. And it's just everything in the same place, which is kind of crazy. And it was in Richmond today, this really beautiful space.
Yeah.
And I went for 2 hours and only bought one thing. I'm really proud.
Yeah, I'm proud of you as well.
Me too. But I mostly went for inspiration and also business inspiration, because running a vintage business is something that's like really difficult and really unique. I think, because you don't really have an inventory. It depends on your talent to go pick things. It depends on your talent to have an eye. So it's a lot of time. It's a lot of relying on yourself.
You have to have water. You have to have a meal. You have to
coffee,
just be like,
and you have to like.
So
really
it's nice
focus.
when like all the beautiful items of clothing and jewelry are in one place.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is actually very relevant to the topic today of minimalism versus maximalism, because I kind of had a changing moment. I've been practicing minimalism since September, but about a month ago I did a photo shoot and I met this woman who does like all like authentic, high-end like couture jewelry with just like some of the most famous like luxury brands, and just everything was made like 50s, 60s, or she has stuff even like dating like over 100 years ago. And just,
That's crazy.
I told her I was a minimalist, and she was like,
How could you?
and she was like, I'm a maximalist. I was like, okay, maybe I could be a maximalist.
I've never heard
the
that
jewelry
word.
is like,
I've never heard maximalist before. I feel like minimalism is like something that's like very defined, but maximalist I've never heard.
yeah, so I'm going to talk about that. But yeah, so I was like, maybe maximalist is something I can do if it is like the quality of materials. So let me just make sure I can see who's on, see if I get any comments. There, okay. So, yes, minimalism is in a sense like very defined. So from a style perspective, it's pretty straightforward. Minimalism is minimal accessories, not too much of like a bright, colorful like color palette. Just
Quality over quantity.
yeah, just like not too many prints, just like very like structured, but just not a lot going on. And maximal is like lots of prints, bold colors, like layering on of jewelry,
Extra,
yeah,
everything.
layering of different types of garments over one another, maybe like furs and
Different styles,
mix, like of textures, and
like
just,
a hairstyle, like very bold shoes and crazy jewelry and different. I think it's a lot of like different styles coming together, different time period too.
yeah.
You're not scared of going from things with the 50s and the 80s and the 70s all together in one outfit.
It's perfect.
Yeah.
I'm the minimalist and she's the maximalist, so she can fill in the gaps for
Yes.
me.
Yeah.
So it's perfect that you're here.
Yeah, I know. It's like
She loves fashion. You love vintage fashion too. So
and I like over the top styles. I look very low key today because I'm trying to like stepping in a more minimalistic, simple, pure aesthetic, but it's very challenging.
yes, so, simple is the differential word.
Yeah.
So minimalism does not necessarily mean simple. Actually, minimalism is, in a sense, very complicated because you're taking all of the different components of design choice. So essentially you could have like a million different choices of how you want to arrange something, and then what just like defines it as minimalist is you're picking kind of the strongest definition of the strongest point in the design, and that's it. So you're stripping down everything,
it's
the
super
choices,
hard.
and then you're picking like the most defined, clear, articulate way to express it.
And I think it kind of talks for itself because you just don't put like you don't have a lot going on. You have that thing, and it's really hard identifying that thing in your outfit or in your accessories, and just have it talk for itself. I think it's really challenging. I can't do that.
Yeah. So in defining your personal style, you can go on essentially like a spectrum of between maximalism and minimalism. So I did want to talk about art movements. I want to talk about music because these are all different like examples of how minimalism versus maximalism are expressed, and that helps you to start understanding how it can actually be applied to your personal style and how you can actually tap in on like the strategies of both, because both actually have like this still like a high degree of strategy to be successful either way. Just like one, it's kind of a layering thing, and the other is like defining. So if you Google image search minimalism and maximalism, you start to see like the difference. So maximalist art is just sometimes just splash of colors and textures and just busy and just chaotic and like so much going on. You have to focus in, try to find the details. Whereas, and I think actually I'm not an art historian, but throughout history, maximalism actually came in response to minimalist art. But minimalist art actually came as a response to abstract expressionism, which was actually a little bit maximal. So they kind of are in opposition to each other. So then you see minimalist art, and you see like it might not even represent something. You have to start looking for kind of like the subtle like subtleties of the meaning. So for me, when I first discovered minimalism, it was through Frank Stella, who he has work at the De Young. He just did an exhibition at the De Young, and he has work at the San Francisco MoMA. And one painting in particular, well, he has a series of paintings called the V series. Go ahead, Google image search since you're tuning in on the computer, and see what I'm talking about, because for me, that's where I really connected to kind of having a sense of control over minimalism. You have your phone if you want to look up the painting. It's called Frank Stella V series. So way back in November, I was up late at night working. Surprise! I was up late at night, coming up with ideas, and
Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah. So I don't know if you guys can see, but it's like those.
Yeah. So these are kind of the colorful shapes.
It's very simple, but it's very pleasing to the eye. Like there's something about it that just like brings your eye naturally. It's very satisfying to see for me. And I think there's always something about blocks of colors arranged together that like brings you some kind of euphoria. I always get really happy when I see like very simple chromatic rainbows or just like three colors together. It's kind of like like this is just like this feels really good, and you don't really know why, because it's just like pleasing. It's like a massage for like your senses. It's really pleasing to the eye.
So apparently he actually uses Britt told me this. He uses CNKY colors, which are like the Photoshop colors. So that's why everything works so well, because everything's like complementary,
perfectly balanced.
Yeah. But the other thing I discovered for myself that kind of transitioned me was the use of mathematics, and that's how like you can have like a line going one way and then it meets, so it gives you this illusion of transition of shapes of lines and angles but the continuity. So I'm like staring at this at night, and I realized that it was essentially a pattern piece, a grid like pattern piece, and that the geometry of like a triangle was actually like so able to like create a continuous line like throughout the body. And this has essentially been my study of minimalism, is the geometry of shape and its relationship to a curved shape. So a linear shape related to a curved shape, which is the female body. So this is what I spent like 6 months in my design obsessing over, with stripes and getting everything to line up. And that's for me really where I saw kind of the strategy and the articulation. It comes from like, it can come from a different place than just visual. It comes from kind of almost the science or the mathematics of the world. So that's how you can, if you want to get super intense about it like me, you can think about.
That's so funny. I would have never thought about, you know, like I definitely like look at art and see math and see like proportions and distances, but I would have never, I mean, besides like stripes, which is like a pretty obvious thing, but in fashion I would have never thought about mathematical relationships being something that actually like tricks the eye or like please the eye or like creates some kind of feeling in the person that like watches what you're wearing and how it transforms your body without doing much, you know. But that's super interesting.
Yeah, so it just, if you want to approach minimalism in a style, it just does require like a certain degree of just editing and being almost like really picky with the components that you do incorporate, or and then you're looking a little bit more in terms of like how I spoke about yesterday with silhouette and shape and structure and seam lines, because the design isn't as much about like the exterior like embellishment or like embroidery or like adding something in addition. It's more about just the structural and just the decision making. So that is essentially what I've been obsessed with.
That's so funny. I have like such like a different approach. I'm not a fashion designer, but I don't make garments and I don't make clothes, but I pay a lot of attention to styling, and I collect a lot of pieces, and my approach to fashion is this like crazy accumulation of pieces together and patterns and colors and huge things. So we're like completely the opposite. That's hilarious. When I like think about an outfit and I think about like creating something, I literally pile everything I own on me, and then I take some pieces off, but I pile everything on me. And like furs and crazy colors and robes and underwear and like headdresses and jewelry and everything. And sometimes there's like it just clicks and it works, but most of the time it doesn't work. It's just a lot of fucking up.
Do you have any sense of technique, or how do you know when it's working, or is there like a process that you go through to make sure that it's working, or is there any sort of like relationship to
balance? There's a lot of balance between top. So like what I really like, I have like a hourglass figure, so I make sure that I have a lot going on top, I have a lot going on the bottom, and I don't know, I like weird patterns. I don't like flower patterns. I just love a lot of bold color together. I don't even know how to explain it. It's like a very chaotic process. There is nothing organized or like thought of. It's very like sensory. I spend like, so I
trial and error as well.
Oh and like most of the time, so where I wear my outfits a lot is that I used to go to a lot of festivals here in California, and it's just like it's such a like fun fashion show to play with, and it's like such a fun environment to like try out some new outfits and some new ideas, and you can really go really bold and express
Festivals
yourself.
are an example where you can
It's a runway.
think
you know?
outside the box.
You can think outside of the box, and your creativity will always be admired and will always be celebrated, rather than kind of like, oh, I wonder why she put like a fur collar with like a top hat, and like she has this going on. It's like it's all about like going all out, and that's where I find most of my inspiration, by the over the top styles, because that's where you can really see it. You know, when you see like avant-garde, high fashion, you're like, well, where are they going to wear that? This is made for inspiration. This is like a piece of art. But where are you going to wear that? And like festivals is like where people wear that kind of stuff, you know? So you get to see it in front of you and in real life, and you get that. I feel like when you wear some things are very extravagant, you allow yourself in that context to be just as extravagant, to completely like open the gates of, oh, I can do that too. Like I can just be over the top too. That's fine. I can do that. So, no, it's pretty cool. I like mixing new with vintage, and mostly vintage. And I have like signature pieces that keep using over and over and over, because they just like complement any outfits really well. Yeah, you're holding it. But
I didn't bring my tripod.
yeah, no, it's really
So
fun.
yeah, I guess that's part of it. Yeah, just the willingness to take a risk with like combining prints or textures and old and new. I think just focusing on brightness. I think what is really cool about layering in vintage pieces is they're often made with a certain level of integrity, like especially older pieces. All of the materials are like real metals. They're made by hand, or like real glass beads, and so they actually have like a craftsmanship that isn't as common in this day and age, where things are just mass produced. So for me, that's how I could see myself pulling in more maximalism into my style. Is like, if I want to layer on, like, I could definitely layer on like lots and lots of costumey jewelry and have like something, just like piled on of jewelry. But to me, that's almost even still like a minimalist strategy, because you're picking something from intention and a plan. So does anyone have any questions, any thoughts on maximalism or minimalism, where you fall into the spectrum? What inspires you to think outside the box in fashion?
Or also take risk. When I think about minimalism, it makes me nervous just to think about how to do it, because that's a concept that's like so foreign to me, that being simple and like stripping down from like a lot of extravagance and have one detail showing up, I don't know how to do that
Okay.
at all.
So, yeah, that is, part of this series of defining your personal style. It is, first of all, like editing down to things that you love and focusing on like one or two items that really provide like an impact that you're going for, and then having maybe the concept of like how I shared with like a color palette too, which is my topic a couple days ago, of having neutral colors and accent colors. So you actually think, if you're adding something to the design or your overall look, you're thinking in terms of, what does this add to the design? Is this like creating an accent into like my look, or is it pulling away? Is it distracting? So you start essentially, instead of just layering on as many things as possible, you start with the bare minimum and you just meticulously add something, or you can start and then you subtract. So
What was it? There's a quote that says like, before you leave the house, you have to like take at least 2 things off. I think Chanel said it.
Yeah.
Or something.
Chanel always said like that before she leaves the house, she always would take that one last thing off. So even in maximalist design, or if you see like as you're putting together like a look or something, there's always like that moment where something is like cool, like it adds to the outfit, but it also kind of takes away from maybe another piece. So that's also how you can start to think more in terms of minimalism. If you're adding on another accessory or another piece in your wardrobe, is it taking away another component in your outfit, like taking away that emphasis?
Balance. It's like a lot of harmony.
It is like it is like how you want to
thing.
Emphasize. So you're thinking in terms of what is the thing that I want to stand out in relationship to
That's
everything
really
else.
interesting.
Yeah.
I've definitely like ruined a lot of like cool looks by trying to like put more stuff on because I had the things available, and I was like, well, but I really want to wear the hat with all of that, and then I wear the hat, but it's just like completely overshadows everything else that's going on. You know, it's like it's pretty cool. And I think with style is you have to make a lot of mistakes. You have to like get out of your house looking ridiculous and just like learn from that and be like, all right, I probably won't do that again. But you have to like go out and explore and do like, I don't know. I had crazy styles when I was a teenager, and when I look at picture, I'm like, oh no, why did I? What was
I used to wear like different shades of blue, like head to toe blue, but just different shades.
I had like, I wanted to wear every single color that was available, every single color, every single style. I wanted to like mix everything together, and in some contexts I'm learning that it works really well because you have a lot going on, but you have the same essence. That's what you have going on. That's like the common piece between everything you're wearing, is that even if your like collar is from the 60s, and then your belt is 70s, and then your shoes are like more modern, you have like that same vibe to it.
Right.
That same
That's actually a
color
really
palette.
good point. If you want to go maximal, but you still want it to be cohesive, then think more in terms of the mood. So, oh, my sister says, plus blue eyeshadow. Like, yes.
Oh, no.
I actually I bought a neon pack of eyeshadow. It is like orange, red, yellow, vibrant blue, magenta, and green. And I
did too, really
so,
recently.
yes.
Yeah. I don't know when I'm going to use that, but.
That's why those colors are in my color palette. So yeah, I think if you still want to be cohesive, then you're thinking in terms of the mood, which you can review that on my topic from a couple days ago.
I like going to like color
yes.
sometimes like for example, I'm putting together an outfit right now for this festival I'm going to this summer, and it's all like this 70s orange, kind of, you know, like the orange and the brown together, and I have like pieces that have nothing to do with each other, but it all kind of have the same color palette and spirit, and when everything is on, it looks really, really dope. But it looks stupid next to each other. I mean, it's like not next to each other, but when you don't have it on, you would never think that it would look good. So it's
another
just exploring.
Thing. Sometimes if you're going full maximal, it is some of the layering pieces that could tie in or bridge the gap between like something really like different. Like if like you're going through for maybe, for example, like a paisley print with like something metallic-y or with a shine, like what is that in between that kind of the missing link could show up in the outfit and just like pull it all together. So it does require taking a step back and looking overall, and then maybe you have to reevaluate.
And not only colors, but like shapes. Shapes that work together. They're like some kind, like for example, if you're wearing like an altar top, there's a bunch of things you should not be wearing with an altar top because it's not gonna work. Even if you want to be eclectic, you have to like wear a certain type of like sweater or layer on top of it that's gonna look good. So spend 2 hours playing with your clothes every night. That's what I do, you know. And just
whereas I spend 2 hours scrutinizing the details of my clothes.
Like
deciding, oh, I think I need to change this seam line over like 1/8 of an inch, otherwise I can't move on.
Oh no! It's the life of minimalist, which I will never fully comprehend.
There is such a thing called a minimalist journey, and that's how it's taken form. Is it's like peeling through an onion, because it's like every layer is like a path to self-discovery.
That's awesome.
So
that's very do you find yourself minimalist not only in the way you dress, but in the way you are organized, and like in the way you like?
Since I started doing it, I started with studying the aesthetic, because I wanted to understand how like these designers were achieving like certain silhouettes and shapes, and then it just became kind of ingrained in my life. So I'm actually reading books. It's turned into essentially like an 8-month study of all different topics around minimalism. But yeah, I think I am currently editing down like my possessions, and also the number of like items in my wardrobe. I still have a lot of clothes because it's part of, I think, being a designer, but more it's about like picking the items that really resonate with like my style and my style direction, and also just evaluating if I really love a piece, if it really expresses who I am. And that's actually part of how I've put together this entire series of defining your personal style, because I think going through a minimalistic process is similar to defining your personal style, and that you just get connected a little bit deeper with like who you are and what is important to you, and like values and like the materials you like. And for me, I've actually found that there are certain things at my core that are really strong to me that I've always gravitated to over the course of my life, and those things I've actually found just through considering minimalism. And I mean, that would be like my love of metallics, my love of geometry. It's kind of a way that how you observe the world and what draws your attention and your eyes. So yeah, that's essentially how I've practiced it, apart from like the design as well.
That's really
yeah.
I have a friend that I really want you to meet. That's a friend I'm bringing to the clothing swap you're hosting next week, who is like the personification of what minimalism is. In the way I worked with her, I was her co-worker, in the way she's organized, in the way she dresses, in the way she put together things, and she thinks about every belonging she has as a function, and as not not a piece of clutter, or not like an extra piece, like everything as its place and its function, and everything is. I'm sure
we'll get along great.
Yeah, no, she's great. She's great, but it's like it's such a essence to a person, and it's something that is like so super foreign to me, because I have like so many knickknacks and I accumulate so many things, and like my room looks like an antique store. But it's super interesting to me to see what's the thinking process behind it, and like what's the
how to achieve it.
How to achieve it, and how do you shift from just being like a normal consumer, or like a normal person with your work stuff around you, with the way you dress, the way you live. How do you shift towards this very, I think, way to think that is very organized, and that is very it's great, because you're thinking about everything you're getting. You're thinking about every piece you have as a
very
staple
detailed
of your life or your wardrobe. It's like everything has a function. Everything is the way it's supposed to be, because you thought about it, and that's great. That's great.
Yeah. It's not a competition. It takes on various degrees. You can define it for yourself. So, same with maximalism. You can define how you want to go about just piling things on, making things really like busy and loud. Thank you so much. That was wonderful.
No worries, of course.
So I just have, she mentioned the clothing swap next week. So as part of the series, since I'm covering wardrobe editing over the course of this week, I know that I'll be getting rid of many of my clothes, and if other people are finding after they do a wardrobe edit that they want to get rid of some of their clothes. I'm hosting kind of a event for that, just a clothing swap. Bring your clothing, bring some sparkling wine or regular wine, and just it's free. It's at the gallery, so their Facebook event page is on my profile. And then other announcements are the same. You can get the PDF accompaniment to this series if you sign up for my newsletter, drefa.com/newsletter. It's a free gift, just so thank you. My newsletter goes out once a week. It's just inspirational content about personal style and interiors. And then last thing is Jomper is launching this week with our power suit and our the peplum, which is like the feminine cut, and then we have 2 rompers coming out that we are debuting next Friday at DNA Lounge. It's going to be such a wonderful party. Brittany's friends with Betsy Larkin. She's DJing. She's a headline DJ for that event. I believe it's part of Pride Weekend. So, if you want to come out with us and be the first to see the new rompers, that's happening too. All right. Thank you, everyone, so much for tuning in. Thank you so much, Elise.
Thank you for watching.